Hi, my name is Ron Lehman. I'm from the Faux School in Frederick, Maryland, where I teach decorative painting workshops and complete commission projects for clients all around the world. If you're interested in classes or commissioning me, go to the description area below this video and you'll find links to both of those areas, as well as links to all the tools and materials you're going to use today to create this technique. But before we get started, if you don't mind, while you're down below there, hit that subscribe button with the little bell icon. That way you're notified when new videos come out and you don't miss anything. And then while you're there, I greatly appreciate it if you hit the like button. Today we're going to be doing a rustic plaster technique with a low relief, not a lot of texture, using Mia Dead Marmorino Palladino. So let's get our tools, let's get our materials, and let's get started. So the first thing I've done to get ready for today's technique is base coated the surface using the Mia Dead Quartz Primer, the orange band. Quartz Primer tints with pigment, never paint, cleans up with soap and water, and it's an interior-exterior product. Okay, I rolled that on with a 3/8 inch nap roller. I use a fine nap roller. I don't like using big, heavy, fluffy rollers. They leave more texture on the surface, so I have to sand some of it down and use more product to bury it. The plaster will be Marmorino Palladino interior exterior line based plaster. I ripped the label when I pulled it out of the paint shaker. And that's pretty much it. Tints with pigments, never paints, interior exterior, cleans up with soap and water. This is a very heavy aggregate material. It has a lot of aggregate in it, very thick. It's going to do textured finishes, some really nice finishes. But what I'm going to do is create a very rustic finish, and we're going to finish it with a glaze. But we're not quite there yet. So for the first thing we're going to do is get our stainless steel pavon and spatula, and we're going to do 100% coverage. Now listen to how thick this is, or the size of the aggregate, I should say. Hear that? A lot of aggregate in there. So, not a problem. What you got to be careful of is when you put it on, watch this. Even if you go like this, there are chatter marks in the finish, all right? Can you see those little, there, that's a good example of it, where they kind of go, all right? That is simply because of the aggregate. There's a couple ways we can avoid that. We'll put it on, rub it out with a sponge float, and that takes care of a lot of that. But for this technique, I'm not too worried about it because this is a very rustic, low relief, so there's not a lot of heavy buildup. It's going to be hard for me to talk while I'm doing this because it's so loud. That doesn't bother you. You're like, talks too much anyway. %100% coverage, corner to corner, ceiling to floor. As with all plaster techniques, your base coat is the most important coat, because what you do here will start to telegraph through. So if this is real busy and sloppy, when we put the second coat on and start to backfill in some of this and create a smoother effect or start to build our tone, all these little marks here can come through. Take your time, make sure you've got a nice, clean application with soft undulating motion for this technique. Okay, now we're there. Maybe not. Hold on. That's it. We're going to let this dry 100% before we move on. So I will see you in just a bit. All right, first coat's completely dry. So what we're going to do now is take a piece of tape and split this in half. Doesn't stick very well. What I'm going to do is show the difference between one base coat or two base coats under my texture coat. So it makes kind of a little bit of sense to do it this way. Okay, so let's get some plaster, same Marmorino Palladino on our trowel, and we'll do the texture. Second coat down on the bottom. So here we go. Now, something I did notice, if you take a hairdryer to this to try to force dry it, be very careful because it'll crack. So just don't dry it too fast or else you'll crack it. Okay, so that's all we're going to do is put a second coat on, 100% coverage. We get some nice soft movement here, nothing crazy. Okay, let's let this dry. We'll come back and do our next step. See you in a little bit. Something to think about, and I should have pointed this out earlier, dry, not dry. Look at the difference in color. Slightly off, it dries lighter. So keep that in mind when you're custom tinting your own plaster for the Palladino, it dries lighter. So we're gonna let this keep drying and we'll come right back. All right, so we're ready for the next step. We're gonna take the Palladino on our trowel. And what I'm gonna do is just kind of, just like so, not crazy. I'm gonna let it sit. Go ahead and just put some here, there, and like that. We're gonna do the same to the top. A little too much. Okay, now we're gonna let this set. Because I'm going all over a little bit. I want little trail pieces here or there, so it looks like it broke off the wall versus somebody put it on the wall. And I don't like it when I look at something and I see big voids or hard lines. Like I've seen where some people take cardboard and put it down and they trowel into it, so it looks like it's a big patch and the plaster broke off. But when you go look at a real wall, an old wall, and when the plaster falls off, it has little traces of pieces here and there. It's not those clean, hard lines like that. So we're gonna let this firm up for a few minutes, come back, and then with a soft pressure, we're just gonna go ahead and knock it down. See you in just a bit. Okay, so this had a few minutes to set up, firm up. So with a light pressure, we're just gonna take our trowel, go a couple different directions, and knock the Palladino down. So we've got a slight texture, but it's flat. Same thing on this up here. So the only difference between these two is one coat on a base coat or background, two coats on the background. I'm just kind of giving an option to show the client. Eliminating one step gives it a different look and obviously a different price point. And that's it. We're going to let this set up, come back and put a glaze on it. We'll see in just a little bit. All right, so the next part of the process has dried overnight, and now we're going to do some highlighting. To do that, we're going to use glaze. And we're going to stay within the system of the Mia Dead Velature glaze. Yellow label, Velature glaze. Interior, exterior, cleans up with soap and water, tints with pigment, never paint. Okay? The reason you don't want to tint it with paint is we're going to make it dry too quickly. Pigment lets it dry at a proper time frame that you can work it. All right, so what I've done is I've taken some glaze and put it in a little cup. I'm making a small board, I don't need a whole lot. So I went downstairs, measured my glaze out on the gram scale and the amount of pigment as well, so I had it for my notes. So I made this little chocolate brown color. Now to apply it, I have a damp sponge. It's a little too large for this, but it is what it is. And I'm going to take and put some glaze on here. It's too big for this surface. I should have a smaller sponge for a smaller surface, but anyway, no big deal. I'm I'm just going to come in here and rub it in. The reason I'm using a damp sponge is because if you use a dry sponge, you really don't, it absorbs all the glaze. So by having a damp sponge, the sponge doesn't take and soak all your glaze up. Just look at the difference a little bit of glaze makes. Really makes the technique pop. Now the other thing, you can change your colors, you can go heavier with it, you can do whatever you want. It's you're in control of these things. These are just ideas for you to, giving you information and ideas to play with. Okay, to the bottom. That does look a lot darker right here. Oh, that's because I have one coat of plaster on my base, so it's more absorbent. That's why. I must have closed this up a little bit more, so I'll just put a little bit up in here. There we go. Problem solved. Done. Now, to the bottom. So remember, this had one coat of base plaster. This one had 2 coats on the base. Same technique, it just has 2 layers underneath of the texture layer. And someone's like, why didn't you brush it on and trowel it and rag it off? Because why create more work for myself? This works perfectly fine, and it's a lot quicker. Now, if you want, you flip the sponge over to the clean side. Watch what happens. It rides on the high part of the plaster, and it pulls more of the glaze off on those high spots. So you get a little bit more interest out of it. So let's pull this tape after we clean our hands. Let go. All right. Let go. So it gives you an idea. That's the plaster. What a difference. A lot of interest right there. But it's look how easy this was to achieve. Okay? There we go. So let's take a look. Have to come close. There you go. Look at all that. Look how pretty. Now, the thing is, it's really hard to see the difference between, sorry, I have to look off to the side so I can see what you're looking at. Can you see the difference? Not really. It's a very soft, subtle effect. But this way the customer gets to choose. So, check it out. Ooh, yeah, that looks, but look, there's nothing. Look how smooth that is. But it's not super smooth like a piece of glass. There's a slow, what do you call it? A low relief. Let's see. Yeah. There you have it. Ooh, there you get to see the effect. All right, there you have it. So there it is. That is the, where's my product? I don't want to get confused here. Marmorino Palladino, interior, exterior, lime plaster. 2 coats using stainless steel trowel, finished with the glaze. To enhance the finish, the Velature glaze, interior, exterior, tints with pigment. So the glaze enhances the plaster and adds a layer of protection. because it's sealing the plaster. So therefore it helps prevent it from getting stained. We just let this dry overnight and you're good to go. All right, super easy little technique. That's very dramatic. Has a nice look. Okay, so any questions, ask them down below in the comments area. I will do my best to answer them in a timely fashion. I do my best to get to you as quickly as I can. What else is there? That's pretty much it. There'll be links to all the products and tools in the description below, right underneath of where you're watching this. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell icon. That way you get notified when new videos come out. And if you don't mind, I greatly appreciate it if you go down there and hit that like button. My name is Ron Lehman. I'm from the Faux School in Frederick, Maryland, where I teach decorative painting classes and complete commission projects for clients all around the world. If you're interested in classes or commissioning me, you can find a link down below in the description area for the classes, as well as a link for the commission area to hire me for projects. And you'll see that I've got quite an extensive portfolio of homes, government buildings, casinos and restaurants, and a couple other things. But I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.